Hey guys, welcome back to the Tough Love Podcast with Dr. John O'Connor and my guest, Matt Calabria. Today we're going to talk about my recent birthday and 50 strong and what I've learned over this past quarter century in business, life, and what I hope to bring to you guys today on today's podcast. Matt, what's up, brother?
Not much. Good to be in on this. So 50 strong, man. 50 years, few days in. What can you take away from it with all lessons you've learned in life, personal, and business within the last 25 years?
Probably the biggest thing that's resonated to me are all the voices that I've heard from people and, men and women that I've looked up to, that when I was 27, that they were turning 50. And I looked at them to be so old or so wise or so successful. And I felt like I saw and heard like just apparitions of, these faces saying, wait till you hit 50. And now that I'm here, I am beyond excited to be 50.
Right.
Because I'm like, you know what? It's a number. Who gives a shit?
Most people that talk about it, you're like, what you mean, wait till I'm 50? Yeah. What does that mean?
I think one of the biggest things that, we're talking real talk for me was giving up things, right? And learning that I need to evolve, right? So right before COVID, I saw that I didn't have the discipline that I once had to prepare to be the best version of myself with Doc, the owner, director, and lead skills trainer for Excel Fitness. But I wouldn't let go of it. And it took a global pandemic and physical and mental burnout to give that up. And, looking back at it now, as I hit milestones and I hit this birthday, some of my favorite players and memories and relationships immediately reached out, or I put a post up and it was just memories that when they were going through a tough time, we were having the best of times in those moments that made them realize, hey, on the other side of whatever this is something special. And so, sometimes the best lessons you can learn are from kids and children because they only have this limited perspective.
Yeah.
And as I look back on it now, those were all gifts and pearls that have become the fuel that has created the tank of wisdom that I'm trying to build up in my repertoire, if you will.
Right. Now, leading up to this exact moment, even when we're on this podcast today, going back even just 10 years ago, what was your vision for yourself? Did you see yourself in your head sitting in this seat right now on Tough Love Podcast, making relationships and creating business entities, and what was going through your head?
Amazing question. You know what's funny? I don't remember the whole 40th birthday, but I remember one of the parts when I had turned 40 and I could still jump out of the gym. My body was, still performing at a ridiculously high level. I came back from a ridiculous surgery between 38 and 39. I had what they call a microfracture repair in my right knee. And for a person like myself coming back from being paralyzed or a fractured skull or, an Achilles, calf injury, all the things that I've had, I just looked at that as like, roll up your sleeves.
Yeah.
And, I don't like to curse, when I'm on the podcast, but me talking to myself, I don't necessarily talk to people like this. It was shut the up and do the work.
Yep.
Show up. And there were people in my path during that time that were going through stuff that they didn't realize that my alarms were named after them. And they inspired me to dig in.
Right.
And at the end of the day, every alarm was, you will not beat me.
Yep.
And, so as I look back, 10 years ago, now at 50, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I've lost that competitive spirit, but now I'm more selective as to what I put my competitive juices at.
Yeah.
You know, I think then I was just, you know, firing in every direction. And now I'm very focused. And like you said, the podcast, the amazing opportunity, the blessings that we have to go into and create these social networking events like the one we had on Friday the 10th at the Block. And, you know, I'm blessed to have a relationship with Tommy like I have, you know, as he gives us access. And you have amazing people in there. And I believe Margaret had said, you know, what we find to be amazing is that like you're bringing in this many people and it's different every time.
Yep.
And, you know, I look at it as when I'm reaching out to guests and thinking about who it is, creating synergies. And I used to look at it like, who is using me, right? And that was something that people like my friend Vito, that was a former athletic director at CBA, and other great coaches like Coach Carl at CBA. When you're very good at what you do, people leech onto you, they attach onto you, and they're life and energy suckers.
Yeah.
And I love that I listen to these podcasts now because like Alex Hormozi said something fantastic the other day. He said, you know, the guy's a friend, right? I mean, we definitely have a great relationship for each other. We're both worth a ton of money. And he asked a question, he was scaling business, doing something. And the guy said, I would love to spend a day with you and just pick your brain on X, Y, and Z. And I don't, you know, to paraphrase, but I thought it was the most powerful thing and kind of use it to negotiation right now with Freehold. Yeah. The Freehold property is, they went back and forth and the guy goes, you know, well, what would a day be? And the guy goes, you know, and he knows how expensive Alex Hormozi is and the results he gets. Right. And he says, you know, I was hoping you would just take 75. He goes, well, I was thinking 100.
Yeah.
And clearly they weren't that close to friends to be swapping money like that. But nonetheless, you know, I want to be that guy. I want to create a system from all my trials and tribulations and that's reproducible beyond the John O'Connor method, which was outwork everybody. And when the dust settles and someone's coming through the ashes of the war, it's always been me.
Right.
And I don't want to be that guy anymore. I want to have a band of people that I teach to say, if we go into battle, we go in together. And if we prepare and we know that it's going to be hard, the practice and the hard work is going to make whatever comes in front of us the reward.
Absolutely.
And to me, that inspiration is my new basketball court, my new hardwood.
Right.
Is to go with people that are saying, I want it, but I don't know how.
Yeah.
Let me show you.
Right.
This is what I've learned. And I've learned that it can't be an I, me. It has to be a we, us. They.
100%.
And if you could say in a sentence that you look back and you say, my staff's amazing, they do such a good job, you would think that each of them have a piece of the business, that we all collectively are invested and vested
yep.
in the company that we work for, and that the company recognizes them. You know, I made it a point yesterday on Mother's Day, and for all the mothers out there, I hope you guys all had an amazing day. You deserve it. You give us so much joy. I know my mom, I love you. I missed you. I didn't see you yesterday. I'll catch up with you this week. I love you tons. And you know, my wife, Jessica, you know, gave me 2 amazing kids. I'm blessed with them every single day. And, you know, but most importantly, you know, I made sure to touch all those points with my family and yesterday. And I know that my house had a great day because that was honoring them.
Yep.
But to take time out of it and make a post that we have social media teams and everything that we have, but when they know certain things get posted, it's from me, our staff was appreciative.
Yeah.
You know,
it hits different.
And, you know, right away, if I posted at 6:01, both of them at 6:02 and 6:04 loved and said, thank you so much, Doc.
Yeah.
And I think it's those things that took me a very long time that you know it. And, you know, you always knew the golden rule, do unto others, all these different things you learned in kindergarten all the way up. It's like, but the reality is that everything that we've heard forever still holds true.
Yep.
Like the only thing that I think is crazy what's going on right now in social media, and I love this space. I am tackling it hardcore in New Jersey. My goal is to be one of the top social media people in the state in any age range, by the end of 2024. But I think what's amazing now, hearing these guys that are mega millionaires in this space, is they know that AI is going to disrupt this.
It's coming.
It's coming, right? So in other words, it can, I guess, look at what we do and then replicate it and potentially take what has been these guys' career path and then all of a sudden shift it. But we could apply that to anything.
Yeah.
When he was saying that, I was thinking about, wow, as a chiropractor, we could have said that about our career. I remember when Doc H and I rolled in, we were looking at my father-in-law, an iconic state chiropractor that to this day, I thought the world, started with him, that he was like Tarzan. And, what I came to believe is that you make or break your opportunities. You shift and pivot based on your reality.
Yeah.
And you can choose to say you are doomed, or you could say that I'm coming.
Right.
And whatever's in front of me is only a challenge that's going to make me stronger, and it's going to make me want it that much more. So as I reflect on 50 and everything behind me, I've never been hungrier in my life. And I tell you, like, this last 3 years has probably been some of the most difficult years and times between my dad's failing health and my health in the shift. And listen, I'm not an isolated person, right? I could have sat there and had the pity party, but then I saw that Ed Milet, who I find to be one of my, people that I look up to in this space and are remarkably successful, had some health issues. And, he doesn't need to do it right now. It's about compounding mega wealth for him, but he valued his health and his family and his survival to be more important. And, I think that that's something that everybody has to go with. And that's something that always takes me into, I wish at 40, I knew about like the things that we do now in our clinic with like PEMF and cryotherapy and ice baths and the benefits of, our class 4 laser or the benefits of shockwave therapy.
Right.
Because the one thing that I've learned is a lot of the fallacies or the stories they told about it were either a lack of knowledge by the people putting it out there, fear of people becoming obsolete. Because when we sat in the first international event that we hosted, with John Fernandez from the Shockwave Providers of America, these were surgeons and trauma surgeons from all over the world. And I was like, wait a minute, what are our guys missing here? These guys are extremely successful. They are ridiculously accomplished surgeons of all varieties and wealthy. And yet, every one of their speeches started with, we start with science first. And that would be one thing at 50. I wish that, we heard about it in school and we just went into the grind and chose to do, solely the chiropractic thing and rehab and the physical components. But the cellular healing component, I didn't really dig deep into until I was desperate.
I was going to say, it was really when you were down.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing about it was, and I hope he's listening to this. I know he's been a huge influence in my desire to push social media. And Rob Gill, he had a lot of guys very close to Tony Robbins, and he had a device that I was desperate. I'm sitting there holding this thing on top of my head. I'm holding it on my chest. I got it on my feet. And, it's talking about cellular healing and all these different things. And I'm like, let me look at this, and this doctor was and again, the gentleman that was selling it, this device was created by his father, who was a medical doctor that had at the time was an incurable disease and healed himself with these frequencies.
Right.
So I said to myself, I'm like, hey, look, I've had something going on, on and off for decades, and it's never stopped me. If I can continue to practice a lifestyle of optimization, not maintenance health, not reactive health, but optimization health, to take the best care of myself, to ingest the best foods, water, sleep quality. I drink, water through the night. If I wake up and people say, oh, we're older, we wake up, I laugh. I say, it's almost like the rationale when Kobe said you start practicing at 3 a.m. and then get a practice in, then at 9 a.m. and then his practice at 4 regular scheduled. That in a year's time, he's 3 years ahead of everybody else that just went to their one practice a day. I'm like, I drink water through the night. So it gives me an extra 7 liters a week into my hydration cycle while my body's resting.
Absolutely.
And all these factors allow me to have better function, better response to my body and the stresses that I put on my body that are helping me feel better. And if anything, and if for nothing else, I would say that just having the actual plan and constantly working on myself, instead of thinking about what's going wrong, I'm thinking about how I can make things go right.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that goes to where people tell you, this didn't work for me. This doesn't work. Just wait, just wait. You have so many people telling you, just wait till you're 50, just wait till you're 50, thinking it's all negative. But I see you, it's all positive. What negative do you even take out of this? I mean, where you're at right now compared to where you were at 30, 40, 45, even 49 this time last year, you have came a long way and you're accomplishing what most can't accomplish in a lifetime, let alone 12 months.
To start 3 companies in a year and seeing where they're all going, the acceptance, and they're starting to become profitable. And people that are coming forward to be part of it, it brings me back to people that when I was looking for hope, forget business motivation, like hope, willpower. I was listening to a Mind Shift book by Tony Robbins, who I think by far, all these guys are good. Tony's a John Wooden. When he speaks and the power that he commands in his words are life-changing. And for me, it's like, if you want to be happy, just like that, you can be happy. You want to be angry, just like you're going to be angry. That was the reset. And I found myself in my 30s and 40s very often, kind of self-sabotaging myself or punishing myself for shortcomings and failures, which always brings me back to, really, it was my systems were not in place.
Right.
And now I find myself teaching systems and not necessarily saying there's, any shortcomings or something that I'm doing wrong. It's, and again, I was in a great podcast the other day that turned out to be a 2-hour journaling session that you got in an outline.
I did.
And, it was something that I was so thankful about, and it was about the importance of repetition. And I was talking to the team the other day, we were on a group call, and it's not necessarily about teaching people new stuff all the time. It's about reinforcing the fundamentals. And that way, when they understand those basic fundamentals, they can expand off that. And then they become, it's more intuitive and natural. Right? Like once you teach a young child how to ride a bike and the training wheels are off, ironically, that the human mind, they can always ride a bike. Well, but how many times did that parent, and how many weeks and days and hours went into it to get them to where those wheels came off? You forget it. You just see the end result.
100%.
And, I think in our previous teams and whatnot, and life experiences, we had people around us that thought 14 days made a person. 5 days times 2 weeks made an exemplary employee. And all those different things. And as we look at it now, and I look at my team that I have now, I don't condemn them. I don't insult them, when they're doing stuff. I apologize. And I usually with, hey, listen, I'm sorry in advance. I'm going to be extremely repetitive with some of the things I say, because I believe, in my opinion, that these are critical parts to the process that enable us to be successful, the patient to be successful, or the client, depending on what we're talking about. And by reinforcing that and saying that, I'm disarming them thinking it's about me, or I'm coming from a place of anger or a place of disapproval. That I'm coming from a place of, I understand, it's hard. I'm right here with you. I'm feeling the pain at the bottom line, right? You're feeling it upstream. I'm feeling it, I'm feeling it at the bank. You know what I mean? So we're failing.
Definitely.
And, and I think that those teach lessons that resonate. So,
and I mean, most of the time it's all about going back to basics. We have one of our team meetings tomorrow. Section 1 is back to basics on my timeline that I drew up. And just like major league hitters, they all hit off tees every single day before the game. So going back to basics from where you started, I think that's more important than teaching a dog new tricks.
I'm gonna bring it here, and we'll probably be able to close out today's podcast on this. What did I learn at 50? Don't close your ears to constructive feedback. I thought I nailed it with what we launched at the end of 2023 with Velocity HP Coaching. I have 2 young entrepreneur businessmen that are well versed in their crafts. They bought a company from a gentleman, a doctor of chiropractic, like myself, that was extremely reputable in the brick and mortar catalog style of selling.
Right.
And he died within weeks of the transfer of ownership. So what they had banked on in a handshake old school business format, that they were going to attend seminars and he would pass the torch for all these affiliations. Instead, he had complications that led to his imminent passing, and it was a tragedy for them. They had to rebuild, and at that timing, we had met.
Right.
And as you know, because you were right there with me. And so here I am. I have this Velocity HP Coaching. I've got it. I'm the smartest guy in the room. So I thought, I can do this. I can educate people, and I can go from education to sales, not from sales education. I'm not going to be salesy. I'm not going to be sticky.
Right.
We're going to teach people a system. They're going to be able to reproduce it. And I said to them, I'm like, well, do you guys convert 100% of your sales? And, it's funny. They're very unique and different personalities, but it's great. It's like yin and yang, so the one owner, partner, is extremely aggressive, and you would never think it, and he's assertive and confident and very good. And again, he's an attorney, right? So he's very good.
And that's a big compliment.
He's a very good arbitrator, negotiator, and he can argue his point. And the other one is equally as commanding, but much more reserved.
Yeah.
And, so that one will do the analysis behind the scenes, and then the other one presents it, and I always get to Dr. O'Connor. Let me begin by saying, and I had to break down a 6-hour boot camp, and I was pissed, right? They basically tore it apart. And I'm looking, I'm like, look, this is a rinky dink company. I'm going at them. I'm like, MF, and I'm the Northeast of me's coming out. But then I said, you know what? Wisdom, not ego. Shelf the ego. If we educate people and distribute 200 of these products that are priced to move a month, we each make $1 million. It's a ridiculous number when you think about it, for each guy being responsible for 66 items, right? Or whatever. So I said, all right. It was like the scene from Wyatt Earp, or what was it, Doc Holliday, Wyatt Earp? I think it was Wyatt Earp, when Doc Holliday said, I'll be your Huckleberry, right? And I was sitting there, and I'm difficult. I know I am, right? I'm one of those people that people look back and say, loved him, hated him, but there's really no gray area. I really am not a guy that goes with the flow. And, in this circumstance, I was looking in the mirror of my life saying, shut up and listen. And I rewrote our entire Velocity HP Coaching. And I said, Matt, you'll have it tomorrow with you, is they tore it apart. And they tore it apart like I was being cross-examined in a deposition or some type of legal case, because they want it to be something that represents their company.
Right.
So I said, hey, you know what? Here are 2 attorneys that were successful in their own rights that basically screened this, that I would have to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars for this. And they gave me the respect, time, and effort to analyze it and have intellectual retorts and responses that could help me evolve to be on the biggest stage I could be on. And then they were, I think, even more impressed that I finished 6 weeks and 1 year's worth of modifications in 8 days.
Well, it's funny. They like to slow it down a little bit, change your pace? They're like, oh, he'll get it back to us in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But you got that done.
Yeah, I was pumping them out a day. I broke it apart and realized what we look at and how there's important parts that need to go. The accelerated process that they inspired me to go into was something that also taught them something about the relationship we could have, that it's good to have 2 or 3 unique personalities. If you have 3 minions, chances are you're probably not going to go that far. You might not cause too many problems, but you're not going to be a disruptor. Right. What I saw with their affiliations they had from their previous owner of the company they bought, they did an amazing job of maintaining these relationships. But here are these older doctors that have these, multi-mega $1 million coaching business that were like, your price too cheap, your price to this, your price to that. But their argument is, we want to do the volume game. We don't want to price ourselves out that we're looking for the diamond in the rough. We're looking for doctors that want to scale their business.
You want to touch 100 as opposed to 10.
Yes, correct. And when you do the math, it's like, wait a minute. Okay, I get it, right? And if they're doing well, I was just having a conversation with AJ today, and he's spot on. If they're doing well, and a device is 20,000, well, it's relative. If a device is 100,000 and they have one, that means they're going to be 200,000. And realistically, if I was buying another product, I'd want to be 3 or 4x that number.
Yeah.
Right. And if they're able to do that, great. But at 200,000, it'd be at 800,000. That's a massive practice.
Absolutely.
And I didn't hear that company saying, oh, we have a lot of doctors saying we have multiple locations. And, so I said, you know what? I'll put my chips on them.
Yeah.
And I like that they've taken a chance on me. I like that, we have that opportunity to grow, because that's where during, COVID, I resonates to me. A friend of mine that was working at Nielsen at the time had said, Doc, what's your 5-year plan like? The pace you go at is frenetic. I mean, we think you'll do this pace forever. And I said, no, I never thought beyond next week. And right now, I'm riding it. Then all of a sudden the world stopped. And I was like, now what? Right. But coaching and bringing it all together and bringing what we do into practices, and you could apply the coaching system we have to, dental clinics,
anything,
to veterinary clinics.
Yeah.
And again, the veterinarian space, they're a decade ahead of us, because they don't have the same medical compliance standards that they do for the human, the human regulatory boards. Yeah. And so seeing that, and we see that as a huge opportunity. So it's like the pivots are always there. So it's like, okay, master the system. Then you pick your clientele.
Yeah.
Right. But, I would have never got to where I am now with the confidence or the presentation ability.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for them taking my, Dr. O'Connor, that's a great presentation. And I sat there and was marveling over my own work, saying, yeah, man, rock that. And they basically were like, yeah, so we looked at it and it sucks. And when you're competitive like you are, I am, I was like, you know what? Game on.
Took a punch to the gut, but that's how you know they're all in.
Absolutely. So anyway, what else you have for me? Let's wrap up. You got anything else, or?
I just want to close out with how your mindset is right now. Do you see yourself going at the same pace for the next 25 years? Where do you see yourself,
It's funny. It's a great question. I marveled or prided myself in having somebody come back from a lot of physical injuries, like my father-in-law.
Yeah.
And although he stopped practicing, he got his physical body back to like where he's a specimen.
Yeah.
Right. But if he wanted to, he didn't need to, but if he wanted to, he could have dominated. And when I look back and I'm 60, 70 or 80 or whatever that is, I definitely want to be that guy that's like, someone says, John, you're 78. Why are you still grinding? I'm like, what do you think? I love it. Keeps me young.
It's not work.
Right? It's not work, right? It's my court. It's my basketball court.
Yeah.
And, you know, my 40s, I knew I was going to give it up. In my 50s, I gave it up. In, you know, it may be, I'm not practicing where I keep my license active, but I'm coaching and mentoring and public speaking globally. In my 70s, or my 60 to 70, I'm invested in companies now where they bring me on because I'm an iconic figure in this space that has brought X amount of companies to where they went from selling 20, 30 units a month to 200, 300, or even thousands, you know? And so I don't think there's an end date. I think, again, the proverbial, like I said, when I put my shoes on the court for the last time, I want to walk away saying, I've done all I can do. I left on my terms, and that I hope whoever's following in my footsteps has learned as much as I've learned, and to be blessed with the people that, as I'm getting older, are coming around me to balance me out, and the people that are with me all the way that have been all there are still as, you know, amazing as they were from day one. And I think that, you know, I think that's what it's all about, because the one thing I will say is that if you're staying the same, you're going backwards,
right?
Unfortunately. And in this day and age, this economy, this world we live in. And so if you don't make it fun and make it a sport, so to speak, and want to attack it and go at it that way, I have a feeling you'll probably be a little dissatisfied when you get to
it won't end well.
Day end. So
absolutely.
I hope I answered your question well.
100%. Nailed it.
So anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I think today was a powerful podcast. I think age is just a number. I think energy is based on having a vision. I think motivation comes with being organized and setting daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly and yearly goals. I think that everything we do in life, if we have a passion and a purpose, can be accomplished. And I think that we are only limited by our minds. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Tough Love Podcast. Again, the greatest compliment we can offer is sharing the podcast, following us on our platform, or leaving a review. And again, thank you so much. God bless, and we'll see you guys again soon.